today.
Thanks.
As always, if we just click this onto you right now, and then when we start showing the video, we'll just go ahead and I'll take that from you and shift it nearer the TV, or you can do that. Oh, it's on. No, it's on. It's on right now.
All right.
Actually, Mike, the volume on the TV was pretty good earlier when we
Was it?
tested it.
Okay.
Yeah, so you probably wouldn't have to put a mic there. It'll carry back.
Okay, I just want to make sure we catch the sound from the video.
Yeah, I think it'll carry back.
Oh, okay, good. We'll get out of the way.
Right. I'm not sure if we'll keep the lights on or keep the lights off, but
We may turn the front off. The switch is behind the Colorado flag, but don't do it yet till you've done your
Right.
intro.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
that'll be nice. Okay. Hey, thank you for coming today, for braving the snow. You could have slept in. Appreciate that. The handout here kind of tells you all about this project that happened and what you're going to see today. I think this is fairly timely because November is both, well, of course, November is the month the Veterans Day occurs, but it's also Native American Heritage Month. So you have both of those things, and this presentation is giving you both of those things together. In fact, to let you know, the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation is the home of the Oglala Lakota people. And I visited there about 10 times. And when I visited there, you know, this is another world, this is another culture, this is another experience for me. But when I got there, I said, why are all these things familiar? There's so much that is familiar to me by being there. And for instance, I noticed that almost every family that you meet, they have someone who is in the military in that family. I said, man, that, you know, I knew I knew that Native Americans enlisted in the military or became officers, but I just was not aware of you know, how much that influences their that comes out of their culture. But anyway, I did go on, I'm not a horseback rider, but this past June, I had the opportunity, I was invited to come up on the Crazy Horse ride, and by the organizer, Mr. Ben Brewer. And, but I said, my first horseback ride, it's gonna be 100 miles? I'm gonna be broken down, you know, I didn't have confidence in myself that I could do that. So I took my Colorado mountain bike, and I tried to make it on my Colorado mountain bike, and it worked fine. But they said, no one, I said, who's ever rode this on a mountain bike before? They said, no one's ever been that crazy. But it was fine, as you'll see. So anyway, I did take some photos, took photos of my phone, and I think this applies to the museum because it's the same situation with my father's Vietnam stuff. You know, he's got 75 photos from Vietnam, and I've got like an hour-and-a-half interview with him about Vietnam. Obviously, there's stuff on the internet. How do you combine that? You know, can I combine this to make it into a movie? I've got the audio on one side, I've got the photos on another. I don't have any video. So that's kind of what I was testing out here with this movie, which is, can you combine, you know, camera shots, video, maps, music, all this stuff. And this is what you'll see the result here. This isn't like a Ken Burns documentary. I didn't do too many videos, although there are some video speaking parts, but I tried to do everything with titles and stuff like that. The last thing I would say is, if you don't know too much about Crazy Horse and Little Bighorn, I think you probably should, because these are some of the most famous Native Americans, Native American tribe, you know, in the world. Like, how did I get so lucky, you know, to work with them? But I continue to work with them, and I've shown this to them, and they liked it. So now I'm going to show it to you, so we can get started. before I do that, let's try to start it. See how that looks.
You did all of that? The introduction?
Yes, all this stuff. Well, that, I mean, it's a template.
KILI Radio X, Arlo Ironclad, Machapo. Oh, huh. That one not Kiktapo. Let's get started. Oh, huh. Here's some porcupine. I'm a reservation cowboy. In the Badlands is where I made my home. I ride upon a saddle, and this here horse is all I own. I once had me clover, and Lord, she loved me. But you know, I sometimes kind of miss her, especially when the moon's shining bright.
And so I wanted to do something that was more like a tribute to the veterans and also Crazy Horse. So that's how I created the ride, and it was a way to remember Crazy Horse and everything he stood for, and also remember the veterans of today. Because the veterans of today are the ones that come the closest to what the kind of warrior Crazy Horse would have go there.
Well, now, like, it's really spiritual, and because it's the Crazy Horse ride, and we're riding back from Fort Robinson, where Crazy Horse was killed, back to here, where he was from. We're riding back for him.
I just organized the ride. There's leadership on it. We have a chief, and we have elders, and spiritual leaders. Yeah, we have youth leaders. We have our own way of life. We're trying to kind of angle to positive things from our world. That's exactly what that does. It brings them back closer to the horse world, to the language, to the customs, and our culture.
Where have all the cows gone, lost out on the range?
I'm riding for, well, I guess my great-grandpa, three greats, his name is Crazy Horse, so we're all related, but my ancestors died, so I'm coming for ride for him. No, I think a lot of people ride for Crazy Horse. That's why we're all riding.
Watching out for one another.
Everybody loves the Shetlands. rock and roll.
Lakota grandfather what the answer was to life's difficulties. "Kihelakayo," said the old man, "keep going." And then he said, "There are many realities in life, such as joy and sadness, winning and losing, standing and falling, plenty and hunger, and good and bad. But the ultimate reality is that life is a journey, and sometimes we walk in sunlight, and sometimes in shadow. None of us asked to be born, but we are here, and we must walk our journey with our strengths and our weaknesses. Within each of us is the will to win, as well as the willingness to lose. Or to put it another way, the determination to face life, or the fear to turn away from it. Life is not always easy. There are difficulties, storms, if you will, that bring loss, setbacks, sadness, heartache, and disappointments of every kind. But every storm, every difficulty can also teach us to be strong. To learn to be strong, we must stand and face the storms and difficulties that life throws at us. It means crying when we need to, but it also means to keep looking for answers, to keep hoping. It means to survive this moment, and the next, and the next, until the darkness passes and the sun rises again, as it always will. Life's journey is like climbing a hill. To reach the top, we must do it one step at a time. We should always remember that the smallest or weakest or slowest step toward sunrise, toward hope,
all these doubts casualties. I don't see no reservation now. I'm trying to get up out of here. I don't need somebody tell me how I'm supposed to live my life in fear. Boys can't hold me back. Can't hold me back. These boys can't hold me back. Can't hold me back. Dead man, better off on the rest, but they said, man, you a mascot, just a ghost now, just a thing that I wear for my clothes now. Look around at the whole thing, your skin is brown and you're down for the whole pain. Look around at the whole thing, your skin is brown and you're down for the whole thing. Look around at the whole thing, your skin is brown and you're down for the whole pain. Look around at the whole thing, your skin is brown and you're down for the whole pain.
Thank you guys so much for everything.
That's me.
Did you ride your bike?
Yeah, most. Okay. Go in the other room and get something. Can you come with you? Come back.
Look at this.
Some water? What's some water? those kids that you see, that's Bam's granddaughters. And those girls are from Germany.
when bad people are around and good people are around. There are teachers, someone you can talk to, your best friend. Some days he's the only friend. When you're feeling bad, they're there. They take care of you when you don't know how. They don't judge you. All they want to do is be left with you.
There's a little bit more, but that's the credits. So.
Wow.
How's that? Wow.
Ed, so you said in here that you invited to that?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Is that right, by invitation only kind of thing, or?
Well, yeah, you should. You shouldn't just show up. It's not like a tourist attraction. So yeah, I knew Bam. I worked with him with the through One Spirit, the nonprofit up there, and stayed at his house several times. And he said, "You should come on the ride." I said, "Why?"
Do they do this every year?
They do this every year. That's the 18th year that they've done it. And, you know, I mean, think about it. We have Memorial Day, we have Veterans Day, you know, a day. This is a 4-day, you know, event. And
What does it commemorate?
it commemorates Crazy Horse and all veterans. The reason that it goes from, I should have explained this, it goes from Fort Robinson back to Pine Ridge Indian Reservation because in that historical incident, Crazy Horse was at Fort Robinson. He was killed at Fort Robinson. And so the way they look at it is he would have come back home had he been allowed to. So they are making the journey home for Crazy Horse. But, and I should have mentioned this, when Bam was thinking about this, one of the local Lakota veterans, who is a veteran of the 101st Airborne, you know, helped him kind of conceive it. And he said, we should make it in honor of Crazy Horse and all veterans. Not just Native veterans, but all veterans. So, you know, it's just something they do up there. There's a few clips here and there on the internet, but in essence, it's almost like a secret, you know, and most people have never heard of this. So that's...
Going home.
Yeah, it's going home, and it's going home in a way to honor, you know, veterans of today as well. And the fact that they can get 200 to 300 people to make this ride to, you know, it's kind of just their way of honoring the veterans. And as you saw at the end there, as soon as it's over and they get back, then there's the veterans powwow. And you can see those are like, you know, today's veterans.
You commented that this wasn't a Ken Burns. I think this rivals. Genius. And the way you did those shots with a negative.
Yeah.
And where'd you get the aerial photography? Was that a helicopter? Or
Right. That was one of Bam's friends. I didn't do that, but he uploaded it online. And so I don't know if he had more shots. But so I got permission to, you know, his name is MJ, and so we incorporated that in there as well. But because I didn't have a lot of interviews, I said, no, I've got to make it better visually and with music.
They'd have a $multi-million budget,
Right.
And all this equipment, and the fact that you did it on your mountain bike.
What was the camera you used?
Well, I used like 2 cameras, but basically the still camera was a Sony A6000. And that's, I don't know.
Just a digital, regular digital.
Yeah, it's just a regular camera. I found out later, oh, it can do, you know, it could have done the video, but I had a Zoom Q8 to do the video. And before I forget, I want to thank my family for allowing me to spend about 100 hours perfecting this thing, and they did, and you know, I've taken away from some of my dad time, some of my recreation time, but it took about 5 hard weeks of work, and then about another 2 weeks of sporadic work to get it to that level.
Can you talk a little bit about the people, because you asked how he got involved. Can you talk a little bit more about the people who support this And because you mentioned the 2 girls from Germany.
Right.
Obviously, I mean, not everybody, when you look at them, appears to be Native American
Right.
or even, yeah, so can you talk a little bit about that, about the volunteers that supported?
Right. Of course, everything has to be funded. You have to have some funds to do this. I don't know. It took about $6,000-7,000 maybe to do it. So One Spirit is the nonprofit that people would, they were the main sponsor this year. People would contribute to them. The other people, like there were people there from Germany, Switzerland, France. I'm sure in past years there have been people come down from Canada. There's been accountants from the East Coast who didn't know what they were doing, never rode before, and they have to make arrangements. You have to find some local person, get a horse, rent a horse, I guess, with the stuff. But by making prior arrangements, people, like I said, it's an international ride is the point. I'm trying to answer the question. So it's not only the local Native people, but probably the majority is.
But you must have had quite a logistics training for that. I mean, for every there's got to be someone in a truck carrying camping gear, food, extra stuff, and everything.
They did. Those volunteers would come, ahead, and even the horse trailers would accompany them, but the volunteers would come ahead, set up the lunch real quick, and in Chadron, they would camp. Most people would, but there were a few motels nearby. And then once you got to the reservation, all these horse flies are biting you. I mean, they were vicious, but, and somehow they make it happen. They do, and there were people, that's another story. There are people that will go to things not knowing if they have gas money to get back, I'm telling you. They may have to just materialize some gas money, just to get home. But this is like the main, thing that they do. So they're committed to it.
How did you get involved originally with people?
Well, I looked at a map. I saw some documentaries, and I looked at the map and I said, this is like less than a 6-hour drive from here where we are in northern Colorado. And I said, I can't sit around waiting for an invitation. So I called them. I called the Red Cloud School up there, which is a high school, and I said, would you invite me up there? And so I got them to invite me to come up, and I came up for homecoming. Their homecoming football game, which they won like 48-7 against the opponent. And then they had a horse parade at the school. And I said, wow, this is great. And the famous Chief Red Cloud is buried right behind the school up on the hill cemetery there. So I went to the Black Hills powwow and certain things, and I just realized that there are certain things that I could do to help them that was easy for me to do, but was harder for them to do. Well, such as making a video. And we did another video online. We were trying to raise money for them to create their own meat processing facility. And not trying to brag, but we put this video out there. And once the donors saw it, an anonymous donor pledged $14,000 in matching donation to get the meat house.
Talk about
and it's almost done.
Of the meat, though, 'cause you just said meat.
Yeah.
Not just like random.
Right.
Stuff.
Buffalo?
Well, they don't have buffalo is the primary thing. Bam is a buffalo rancher. The buffalo that you saw in the video, that's from like in his backyard, which seems amazing. But when I was last up there, they were up to like about 30 buffalo. And the tribe has some buffalo and some other ones do, but if they ever have to process it, they're just like going into a garage or something, or they drive an hour away to process it. They don't have a USDA facility there. So we're pretty close to having this thing fully funded so that they can process it there on BAM's ranch. But that's what the power of video can do for you, and YouTube and to reach out to the donors. So yeah, it is their sacred way of life, to their connection with the buffalo, and also, you know, the game that they find up there as well. And that'll help their economy overall, because if someone has an extra, they may not have money, but if they have an extra cow, then they can, you know, be more flexible if they can process it cheaply there. But it is their cultural connection with the buffalo.
How big is the reservation, the population?
Good question. Certain questions, you know, like what is love? You know, you can't put your finger on exactly, but it's about the size of Delaware. That's what I've been told. But you know, it's the land nobody else wanted. It's this land that had no use. It's flat. It's windy. It doesn't have a lot of water. You know, but it's the Great American Grassland. So as far as population, I mean, it's from 28,000 to 35, 40,000. It's unknown because people will go back and forth. But, you know, about, I would say in the 30s, low 30s, I would think.
Don't they generate revenue by allowing the ranchers to graze their cattle on that government land? I heard they make money. How about a gambling facility? Do they have a casino there?
Well, yeah, they do. In fact, they do have a casino, but it doesn't make much money. It's not much money that the people see. You're right. They do. The tribe has this trust land, and they'll rent it out. But again, the people that are supposed to have title to that land, it's never been what you call divided, so they never see any of that money. And then other land has just flat out been sold over the years, and they're trying to buy it back so they can kind of restore the integrity. But it is about 70 to 80% unemployment, and that's the key to it. If you had full unemployment, a lot of your social problems you have would go away. But you know, you've got those problems of depression, alcoholism, suicide. There's some severe problems. So I hope, you know, this doesn't give you the impression there's no problems, but I just tried to focus on this 4-day window of positivity that they have, because there are so many negative things.
Now, is this something you go back to periodically to visit them during the year? Or?
I do. I've gone about like 6 times a year. I've gone probably 10 times now up there. So it's pretty, you know, it's taken my time. It's involving, and if you spend a weekend up there, you're going to learn everything that you could not learn from words and pictures. You're going to learn about 3 months of graduate studies in a 48-hour period. You're like, oh, okay, I understand now. Why didn't I know about this? Why have we let our fellow Americans, and they're very patriotic as that population. 4,000 of them were veterans. That's phenomenal. That's a very high percentage. So,
tell me about that. Those kids that came to stay with us, and that one that actually had a local connection. That remember the one that went to high school in Thornton?
Right. You know, and folks move back and forth, and one of the young people there that's living there now went to Thornton for high school, and they were part of the One Spirit Runners. They came down for the Colfax Marathon. Now, they didn't run the marathon solely, but they did a relay to do the marathon. But I mean, these are great kids and great sense of humor, and you know, they're faced with challenges that kids out here in Colorado don't have to see very often. But that's a daily challenge. You know, some of the things that, particularly when you have that much unemployment, and imagine yourselves. What if your brother called you up and said, I have lost everything, and the only option I have is if you will take me into your home, and I'm going to live in your home for the next 10 years. And there's 2 families and maybe 3 in a home, usually. And so that's just the reality. If they were more cold-blooded, more business-like, they would say, no, I don't care, you know, go to Nebraska and file for unemployment, something. But they don't do that. They take their family in, they help each other. And so, right or wrong, that's what they do. And, you know, it's hard.
Ed and I talked about this last time that I was here. The tribal ancestral roots go back to World War II when the tribes had the windtalkers back in World War II. And last year, 14, Chester Nez was the last surviving windtalker and was celebrated at this event last year. So many of the tribes, the Cherokees and the
Lakota, Navajo, yeah.
Were more prominent with the windtalkers in those tribes.
Right, and there were some Lakota code talkers, wind talkers as well that helped us win, you know, particularly in the specific battles in World War II, helping, because the Japanese had no reference for this sort of language. And so...
Can I tell a little bit more about that high school?
Sure, sure.
So, and this is all Ed, this is not me, but I want to complete the story.
Sure.
Because it tells a lot about you and how we got connected to these kids. So those runners that he was talking about that came down for the relay, Ed, through his connections, that the adults were staying in a hotel, but they needed a place where the kids could stay. So he asked us first, and we said yes, but he asked us if the kids could stay at our house. So we had, three or four girls, a couple of boys come stay at our house. And it was really kind of a cool, remember that? It was kind of a cool experience. So we made dinner for them, and we're sitting at dinner, and of course no one's talking because they're teenagers and they're in a completely foreign environment. So I start trying to get some conversation. So what's your favorite food? And the first one that speaks up, he was just so amazing. He was so polite, and he loved everything, even though some of the food had been overcooked, and it really wasn't that great, but I cooked this, I can say that. So the first one that spoke up, he said something, and I had no idea what he said, and it was in his language, and I said, I looked at him, and I asked him to repeat it, and then I still didn't know what he was talking about, and then finally their coach spoke up, and he said, well, tell her what it is. And so his favorite food was beef tongue that his grandmother makes. And I thought that's not the answer I expected. The other one is so like pizza and tacos. But we actually made a kind of a cool connection, because I remember my grandmother cooking beef tongue in Iowa, out on a farm in Iowa. So it was kind of cool to have that connection. But one of his friends that was there, this is the one that I was thinking of, connected to Thornton. He had just gorgeous hair that he tied back, probably came down to here, and we started chatting because he obviously knew the area very much, quite a bit, and his mom was a veteran from Fort Carson. And I think there was obviously some kind of family situation. She was, I think, still in the military or had gotten out, but he had gone to Thornton High School, and he lived in Fort Carson, and now he was living on the reservation and everything. And they were just the sweetest kids. And some of them obviously, had, lived in different areas, most of them not. But it was just a really cool experience. And what strikes me as I watch this, probably because I'm a mother, but the significance of them trying to link back the heritage with veterans and with their own cultural heritage is so significant. And Ed hasn't even talked about their suicide rate, but because that's not the purpose of this. But it's a really, and I think it really ties to the mission here, is how do you connect back to the kids and the next generation? And it's just so cool to me to watch that and see that connection, because that one kid that was on the run, that was a runner, whose mom was in the military, he was kind of living in both worlds, and he would he would kind of shift gears. It was really intriguing to watch, but, and inspiring. So I can't imagine what it would be like to be in their shoes.
So is this run a yearly thing?
Well, it was the Colfax Marathon.
Oh.
Yeah, that they came down for.
They came down to the relay team to do the Colfax Marathon.
Yeah.
And it was just like a big deal to them. They got to come.
Will they do that next year, or?
They try to do it yearly, yes.
Well, if you end up involved with them next year, just now, maybe collectively we could host a cookout or do something.
Well, I appreciate the offer.
Do you know how big feet come?
My wife put this.
I never.
I think it was years before I knew what it was until I finally saw it.
Yeah, I have a distinct image of it coming out of the oven, so, yeah. Anyway, I'm sorry, I wasn't trying to steal your thunder, I just wanted to tell you.
Well,
I appreciate that.
But we want to give you one of our challenge points.
Why, thank you.
And thank you so much for coming and talking with us.
Super.
And we're so impressed with your directorial debut.
All right.
It's amazing.
Thank you.
So hopefully we can tap into your skills sometime and you can just teach some of us.
Elevate your volunteer position.
Yeah.
The raises won't.
Most appreciated. Thank you so much.
Well, and any other questions? Well, one question I just had. How many different tribes are on the, Wind River Reservation?
Pine Ridge. There is a Wind River in Wyoming. They're Shoshone and Arapaho, I believe. But it's just Lakota. But they have 7. Their group, the Sioux, is 7 tribes: Lakota, Dakota, Nakota, Sanzark, Brule, which
But
is
does each
in
tribe have
Rosebud.
their own governing council or something? Yeah.
More or less.
Is there like a common one which helps bring them together?
Well, yeah, the overall structure. So I'm not totally familiar with that, but mainly, Lakotas are on Pine Ridge. So.
Have you become kind of an expert now in the Indian Wars and all of that history?
I'm just a guy with opinions. But I'm studying. Yeah.
Well, that's just marvelous what you did there.
Thank you. Thank you.
So please stick around. We have a lot more donuts and other refreshments and talk some more with Ed and his family, and you'll learn all about this.
Annika would like to ask a question, if you don't mind.
Oh, please, yes.
Isn't everybody the leader of what is it called? Crazy Horse Ride?
Is everybody the leader of it? Well, Dan is the organizer, but it's hard to know. But it's interesting when people get on horseback. The horse is kind of in charge. So, some horses will go faster, slower, and they're just very leisurely about it. They're not trying to race. It's like a journey. And they say that, that the elders will talk to the younger people and say, hey, let me tell you a word that you don't know, or let me tell you an experience I had. So it's a cross-generational experience like that.
So thank you for humor.
Thank you. All right, well, stick around. Thanks.
Thanks, Ed. Thank you.
Sure.